In the past 24 hours, Ukrainian Marines have destroyed 3 Russian air defense systems, 2 ZRGK Panzer S-1 worth $15 million each and 1 ZRK OSA that costs $10 million. Ukrainian armed forces have also destroyed 1,550 Russian armed formations and 14 tanks over the past day. In addition, a significant number of Russian military equipment have been destroyed by Ukrainian troops. 184 combat clashes were recorded on the front, including in the areas of Lyman, Kramatorsk, Toretsk, Pokrovska, Kurakhiv, and Vremivka. In the Lyman direction, the enemy attacked 12 times. He tried to advance near the settlements of Nadiya, Tverdokhlibovo, Zarichne, Novosergiyevka, and Pershotravneve. In the Kramatorsk direction, the invaders attacked 7 times in the area of Chasovy Yar, Stupochy, and Predtechyny. In the Toretsk direction, the enemy carried out 12 attacks near Toretsk, Shcherbinivka, and Krymske. In the Pokrovsky direction, our defenders stopped 51 assault and offensive actions of the aggressor in the areas of the settlements of Yelizavetivka, Vozdvizhenka, Myrolyubivka, Promin, Lysivka, Novyi Trud, Pishchane, Solone, Novovasilivka, Novoyelizavetivka, and Yasenovye. In the Kurakhiv direction, the defense forces repelled 27 attacks. The enemy's main efforts were made in the areas of Slovianka, Petropavlivka, Kurakhiv, and Dakny. In the Vremivka direction, the enemy carried out 13 assaults on our positions near Yantarny, Novy Komar, Novosergiyevka, and in the direction of Constantinople. The enemy actively used aviation to strike in the direction. The Ukrainian defense forces continue their operation in the Kursk region. Enemy aviation is carrying out strikes with guided aerial bombs on the territory of Russia.
In 2024, Uralvagonzavod could transfer to the Russian troops about 20 T-72B and T-72B1 tanks modernized to the T-72B3 standard. In addition, the Russian army could have received approximately 60 to 80 new production T-90M tanks, as well as a certain number of tank support combat vehicles, Defense 24 reports. This amount is clearly insufficient to cover the losses of Russian forces during a full-scale war, which some experts estimate at approximately 3,700 tanks. It is worth mentioning that this figure includes not only destroyed but also damaged and captured vehicles. The number of destroyed Russian tanks is estimated at approximately 2,600 units. Defense 24 notes that Moscow is running out of strategic reserves of some types of combat vehicles that were produced in the Soviet Union. First of all, we are talking about tanks of the T-80 family, the reserves of which are mostly exhausted. The number of T-72 tanks is also decreasing. This means that over time there will be a shortage of vehicles suitable for repair, and Russia will have to rely only on current production, which does not meet its needs. Experts remind that at the moment, Uralvagonzavod is the only Russian enterprise that produces tanks from scratch. Others are only capable of repairing and modernizing such equipment. The war in Ukraine is draining Russia's inventory of weapons faster than replacements can be built, while industries critical to the defense sector warn on high interest rates. More evidence is piling up that Russia's military-industrial complex is nearing the brink after nearly 3 years of fighting in Ukraine. In recent months, leaders in the defense industry and adjacent sectors that are critical to the war machine have sounded alarms. Contractors in the Russian defense industry are reporting non-payments and higher financing costs. Alexandra Prokopenko, a fellow at the Carnegie Russia-Eurasia Center, told the Washington Post. Meanwhile, other analysts have predicted that the Russian economy can't sustain Putin's war on Ukraine past next year, as the ability to replace battlefield losses with Cold War weapons runs out. For example, the military is losing about 320 tanks and artillery cannon barrels a month, while Russian factories can produce only 20 each month, forcing the Kremlin to dig into aging Soviet stockpiles. But that's not enough, and Russia will run out of barrels sometime in 2025, according to a recent analysis in Foreign Policy magazine. The situation was dire even last year, when Russia's largest movie studio donated about 50 tanks and armored vehicles from the 1950s that it had been using as props. Ukraine is developing effective strikes on occupied Crimea, destroying both enemy infrastructure and extensive air defense systems, but there are still many military resources left on the peninsula. This was stated in an interview with Ukrainian radio by military expert and founder of the reactive male organization Pavlo Narozny. According to him, in Crimea over the past year, two major achievements can be noted. First of all, this is the destruction of the largest oil depot in Simferopol by drones. This is an important point, because when we talk about destroying bases somewhere in the Ryazan, Rostov, Bryansk regions, these bases can be restored relatively easily. But in Crimea, it is much more difficult. Yes, storage containers can be delivered there by rail across the bridge, but such rolling stock with a huge amount of diesel or other oil products will be a very good target. Another way is by sea, but let's remember about sea drones. Therefore, it will be much more difficult to return a destroyed oil depot in Crimea to working order than in continental Russia. Narozny explained. The second point, according to him, is the destruction of a huge number of air defense, missile defense systems in Crimea, in particular the S-300 and S-400. He noted that there are approximately 50 to 55 S-400 systems in Russia, so each such system destroyed is simply a huge blow to their ability to repel our missile attacks. At the same time, he noted that there are still many military targets left in Crimea. Crimea is now a truly huge testing ground. The entire coastline there is fortified. A huge number of air defense, missile defense systems have been brought in. There is still a huge amount of aircraft at the Saki military airfield. We have hit Saki many times and successfully destroyed equipment and infrastructure there, but all the same, this aircraft is still working there. There is still work to be done there. That is, there are military units, arsenals, airfields, and so on, literally at every step, the expert concluded. Recently, during a battle in the Black Sea near Cape Tarkankut in the temporarily occupied Crimea, a Russian Mi-8 helicopter was destroyed as a result of the use of R-73 Sea Dragon missiles. Another Russian helicopter was damaged by fire and managed to land damaged. Recently, it was reported online that a drone damaged the Russian vessel Fedor Uryupin, which was in a bay near the village of Chernomorskoye.